Hey, and welcome, Miss Kira Speaks. Please do me a huge favor and stick around to the end of this video. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. We're here for another episode of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, season 15, episode 6, Rap Sheets and Old Beefs. And this was the perfect title for this episode. So we start off with some old footage from production as we see the evolution of what is Kandi and Marlo. And then production says, wait a minute, hold my bag. Let me get my bag a second while I pull out these receipts on that ass. And I said, okay, production. We see never seen before footage of these text messages from 2020. And then the very next day, Marlo goes on over to Kandi's house where she's packing Riley up for college. In her confessional, Kandi is saying how kind-hearted and thoughtful Marlo is. Marlo brings up the incident and she tears up, and Kandi gets up and gives her a hug. I say this because later on, I ain't have this in my notes, but we all know what happened later in the episode. Later on in the episode, she's going to say Kandi acted like she didn't want to be bothered to have the conversation. She got up and gave you a hug. Like, I'm so confused right now. Kandi in her confessional is talking about how she can relate and, you know, how she would feel if she ever lost one of her nephews, because she's also very close with them. She tells Marlo when her brother passed away, you know, she was numb. Kandi was only 15 years old. Can you imagine how hard that had to be? My middle son is about to be 15 next month. So then we fast forward over to 2021 and we hear Marlo saying, which we've seen this footage before, that Kandi's the only one that sends Cashapps for graduation and birthday, and how, you know, she wanted her to do more, which I was kind of like, yeah, okay, Marlo. And then they kind of fast forward us and they bring us forward to see exactly how we got here with Marlo doing all this shit talking about Kandi. I was appreciative of the receipts. I don't know how Marlo can create such a narrative when there's literally proof. It's just crazy. And thank you, production. Best part of the whole episode. So then we get a scene and it's Marlo and she goes out to eat with her friends / managers, and they're just chit-chatting, making small talk, and they're talking about Marlo getting out there dating. And Marlo was saying she's reluctant because of the boys. Now, me personally, as a single mother, I know she's a muntie, but as a single mother, I can relate. But we know it's stunts and shows, and Marlo ain't really thinking about dating. And if she does, it will just be for the show. Then we get what Marlo really wanted to talk about. She says that Drew ran her mouth to Kenya, and Marlo claims that when Drew brought up the incident, that Kandi gave her like the death stare. Now, I don't remember seeing that, even though they did show the footage, but you know, production puts everything together. If you saw it, go ahead down in the comments and let a sister know. Now, what I can see is where Drew may have wanted to tread lightly, and I don't blame her. Marlo says that Kandi cannot just use the platform to advertise her businesses. Now, Marlo, you do it, and honestly, all of you should. That is how you use this platform correctly. We don't really want to see the shenanigans. I mean, we want to see a little bit of shenanigans. We also want to see shenanigans that get resolved and not bullshit that you create and keeps dragging on. But we want to see the business. That's part of it. That's what you're supposed to do. Get that bag. She wanted Drew to hold Kandi accountable, and she claims that she was triggered by the shooting. Her friend, and I say friend because it was a man and a woman, and they work with Marlo, and really the woman is the only one that we saw talking, but she suggests that Kandi dismissed it, and so it reminded her of Kandi dismissing her nephew's death. I think I said that correctly. But we just saw what happened, and that wasn't the case. Kandi didn't dismiss her on the text messages, nor did she dismiss her in person. Now, what I took from the conversation is that Marlo wanted some flowers from Kandi and for her to have OLG catered. And to that I say, closed mouths don't get fed. Kandi asked her, did she need, let her know if she needed anything. And also, I feel like Marlo only expected it because it was Kandi, because it had been anybody else and any other previous employer, they wouldn't have given you that much at all. And it's just a lot of, I don't want to use the word gaslighting because it's not gaslighting, but you can really see that her friend is feeding into whatever it is that Marlo has told her. But if she'd watched the show, she'd know better. So we see Sanya, and she's at home and she's talking to her mom and her sister, and she's super excited because Belk.com is going to carry Mommi Nation products. Her mom says she's there to help because Sanya is throwing shade at the sister for not knowing if she can count on her, and then she apologizes for the way she came off with the whole situation with Ross and them moving out. And I was surprised when they flashed back that the situation was a month ago, but the sister is basically saying that she's surprised because this setup supports them best. And it does. And even Sanya agrees and throws Ross on under the bus, child. I was like, Sanya don't give about nobody but herself. But she was basically saying, yeah, we get a free nanny. Like, I don't know why he doesn't understand that. I need to have some more conversation with him. So she says she'll have a conversation with him and she'll talk to him about a more realistic timeline. Her sister says, we're leaving regardless, and the mom is saying that the dad wants to stay. Sanya says that she doesn't think that she'll have to fight too hard for the two of them to stay. The gaping hole that's going to be present in this household when we leave, this is Sanya's sister speaking. Sanya's like, you said you were leaving regardless, so what is there for me to fight for? And I see her point, but Sanya's family can still support her not being under the same roof. Now, I don't know how true that'll be for her mom and her dad, because Sanya did mention in one of the episodes that the mom was looking to move to Florida, and they're in Atlanta. Now, while it seems like the sister don't really want to be there, it seems that this situation perhaps best financially supports her and her family. So we mosey on over to Kenya, and she's looking at a space for Kenya Moore hair spare, complete with her little yellow construction cap. She's got her friend Akila there, and I like the space, and Kenya's giving, and we'll have this and we'll have that, and I just like the the plan that she had for the space. She's telling her friend her vision, and then later on we do see her sit down with the architect who gives her the build out and says it's going to be $300,000 to $400,000. Yikes, but it is going to be beautiful. So Kenya and Akila, they sit down in the space and they are talking about Kenya's relationship with KMC. Kenya says that he's gone a lot and that she doesn't really know how to date. Child, I can relate, but Kenya's done the self-work, so she should be okay. She says they don't see each other consistently and they're long distance like her and Mark were, but they were married after 7 months. She says she's known Roy for over a year and they're not even close to marriage. She says she's awkward. Again, I can relate, and I say, Kenya, baby, take your time, because we see how the Mark situation ended up. And Akila is kind of telling her the same thing and telling her to just go ahead and enjoy her life, and that she's there to be her Zen friend. Baby, everybody needs one of those. Kenya talks about this Birmingham trip and says how Marlo attacked Brooklyn. And I said, words matter. She says Brooklyn woke up and she was startled and scared, which I could totally understand. And I talked about that in that particular recap. But she wasn't necessarily being attacked. So she brings up Marlo playing victim and Marlo slashing the girl's face back in the day. And we just not gonna let that go this whole entire episode, which is why I said the title is so fitting. At Sheree's beautiful home, her son Cairo comes over with his 3-month-old Mecca and his girlfriend. And if you ask me, the girlfriend looks like just a little bit more exotic version of Sheree. You can get down in the comments and let me know if you agree. I think her name is Alina. And when Cairo steps off, her and Sheree talk about how Cairo's really been stepping up to help out, and how she doesn't see her friends who also have kids get that same support. Sheree says she has 3 kids and she never had that. She did it all by herself. And when Cairo comes in, they're talking about, how the baby's sleeping and the baby's brand new. And Sheree, just like us good old school mamas and grandmas, is like, the baby could probably have some cereal in the bottle by now. And he's like, Lucky Charms? No, Cairo, not Lucky Charms. So the baby, she is so cute. She drinks the bottle, she burps, and she goes to sleep. And now they still want to do, Sheree had bought this little ornament to do with the baby's hand. So they decided to wet the poor baby's hand while she's sleeping. Cairo is dousing the poor baby's hand. I was like, new dads, too cute. And her confessional saying that he's so hands-on and that she just loves it. She says that she raised him to be that way. And when she first found out about the baby, that she didn't think that he was ready. But she says his actions are showing that he is, and she tears up, and then they show us, footage of him growing up right before our eyes on the TV screen. And again, as a single mother, I felt her on that one. I have 3 boys, and I want them to grow up to be good people and good partners. And it was a rare, heartfelt scene from Sheree. So on over to Drew's house. Her daughter is sick, and her son is outside practicing basketball, what looks like a basketball coach to hone his little skills. And then it's just weird. Drew says, every time I get surgery, you get surgery, talking to Ralph. Throat, your eye, and she points down to his nether regions. Now, Candy on her speaker, she gave Drew a call, and Drew didn't want to talk about it. And I said, okay, so it had to be more than a vasectomy, because a vasectomy, you would have just, oh yeah, girl, he had a vasectomy. But I said, okay, Ralph. Then she brings up Courtney having an event. Child, I said, as a friend of the show, how? But anyway, and she's telling Ralph that she doesn't really want to be around Marlo. They talk about her blowing up at Drew at the winery when Drew was just trying to, ask how Candy's nephew was doing. Ralph's like, yeah, he got shot. And Drew's like, we from Chicago. We don't say that word. Because it's like promoting it. And yeah, I can see that. But Drew, that's bullshit. People from Chicago indeed do use that word. Anybody from Chicago that happens to be watching it, you can go ahead and get down in the comments and verify for your sister. We know Marlo feels like Drew is letting Candy, like I said, she's explaining this all to Ralph, that Marlo feels like she's letting Candy slide, and that the nephew got blah, 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 blah. We know the rest, and that Candy didn't reach out. That's the situation, Ralph says. Yeah, Ralph, it is. We right there with you. Drew says she's given Marlo many chances, and now she knows why Kenya is the way she is with her, and why she said the things that she said, why she said the things she said about Marlo to Drew. She's telling Ralph if she's provoked, it could go down. And Ralph's like, Marlo's a big one. You ain't never seen me fight. I'm from Chicago. I said, okay, Drew. So we go on over to, I think it's Candy's house, and she's in her cute little pajamas, and we see her and Todd is working on some things. He's working on his script, and she tells him about Courtney's event. She says now that Monietta called her and is going, she feels like she also now has to go. So now she's looking around because she's got to find something to put on, because there's paint involved, and she don't want to, wear nothing too nice, and she gets her outfit messed up. So then she FaceTimes Kenya, who's having something for Brooklyn, where Candy's kids are there. Todd and Candy are not, because they're busy. Kenya tells Candy that she met with Sheree and Drew. Drew said that there was an incident between someone that worked for you and one of your nephews, and that's not exactly what she said as they play the footage. Kenya says she didn't get the full details. Yeah, Kenya, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you clarified that. But that he ended up passing. And Candy recalls, but it didn't have anything to do with her or anyone that worked for her. Kenya says she claims that she brought it up to Candy and that she didn't send flowers. Candy says she's been talking to her and smiling on her face, and basically Kikian ain't never mentioned it. In her confessional, Candy is saying that she feels like, Marlo is trying to amp this situation up, and what happened to her business. And that's what I feel like too. And at the same time, you are dredging up old wounds, and it's just not fair. Kenya's like, I'll be there for you, girl. So now when she gets off the phone, Candy's like, She's so irritated. You know, she's talking to Todd. Todd says she's on some BS. Shut that ish down. She just wants attention. And I just love to see Todd, because Todd be so calm. Like Candy was like, she was talking, and Todd was just sitting there with his salt and pepper, just taking it all in like some bullshit. And he's like, you know, real cool. Like, she just shut that shit down. Like, she just want attention. I love to see it. So now it's time for Courtney's Beat the Bomb, where it's all about to go down. So Drew shows up, and then Marlo. And when Marlo is trying to talk to Drew, hey Drew, I don't know how many times she says it. Drew just says so with her. And that's it. And I don't blame her. Drew's like, I am tired of your shenanigans. So then one by one we coming in. We got Monyetta and Sheree and Sanya and Kenya and Candy. I think was the last to come in the door. And when Candy came in, that energy was whoop, and everybody clocked it. Candy says to Marlo, I have to ask you a question, or my energy just won't be right. What is this about me and your cousin? So Marlo's like, okay, come on, Candy. She pulls Candy and Drew over to the side so they can go talk. Candy says, you're upset that I didn't send you flowers? Marlo says when Drew confronted her about the shooting at OLG that she used the word incident instead, but any other time when it comes to Marlo, it's direct. And Marlo done slashed the girl, and Marlo, you know, stabbed the girl. She says, you know, y'all don't sugarcoat anything, which is true. And then she, you know, they talk more and more about the incident with her and Drew. And then she goes on over to when she actually came over to Candy's house to see her. And Candy's like, it's a text. But Marlo remembers that she came over. So I was like, so now Marlo, you know darn well saying that there's footage. If you went, child, she says that she was emotional and that Candy didn't want to deal with it. Candy's like, you're attaching your cousin's shooting to me, and I don't have anything to do with it. So now, as Candy's explaining, it's getting a little elevated, but it's not too bad. Monyetta, she comes over to check on her, and Candy's like, can you back up, please? She said it real nice, and Monyetta's like, all right. She respects her wishes, and she goes back over to, you know, with the group, and they talk about it a little bit. And then Drew tries to get to talking. And then all of a sudden, Marlo wants to dismiss her so just her and Candy can talk. I'm like, well, why did you call Drew over there in the first place if you wasn't going to allow her to speak? Candy says that he has stopped working for them months before, you know, he passed away. And she's like, and what does that say about your character? This is Marlo. What does that say about your character? Candy looks confused, and I'm like, the absolute audacity. Marlo's like, y'all bring up stuff that happened 23 years ago, to which I say, and you don't like it when they do it, so why are you now turning around doing the same thing? So then Marlo is saying that her nephew got shot by a guy that she met in Candy's restaurant. Child, now Candy is responsible for everyone that walks through the door, and you know that's just bullshit. And as they're going on, it starts to get more and more heated because Candy doesn't want any of that BS attached to her brand or business, anything. And we can all understand that. So now the girls get up because Kenya's like, oh no, she makes her way over because Candy's head is going and Candy has too much to lose. So Kenya kind of like tries to put herself in the middle of the two of them. And Candy's like, no, you know, because Candy wanted to say what she had to say, baby. Sheree's like, we're in a restaurant. Like, y'all haven't turned out places that are far less. Drew is busy calling Marlo aggressive. Sanya don't like Drew calling Marlo aggressive. I was like, this is a whole mess. Meanwhile, Candy's like, if she pop off, don't grab me. And I felt her on that when Kenya's like, I won't grab you. I said, that's a real friend. Like, I got you, sis. I'm just looking out for you. I won't grab you, because you know that's when they grab you and the person sneak in and then they get hits, and it's like, don't grab me. Just let me rock. So now Marlo is mocking Candy for crying because Candy got, you know, the broke up cry in her throat, and Candy's like, I'm crying because I can't choke your ass, bitch. Marlo, you don't know anything about that angry, crazy cry. You better back up playing. Marlo shouting, you can't confront Candy, and her character's awful, as Candy and them are headed out the door. So now you got Marlo, Courtney, Sanya, and Sheree. They're still inside. And Marlo is trying to explain her side of the story. Now, Candy's outside explaining hers to Drew, Monyetta, and Kenya. And she got these text messages. She's pulling it out like, this is what happened and this happened. And a couple of days later, she texts me on some cameo shit. So, you know, how mad could she be if you approaching me about a business opportunity? She says, you know, she's tired of Marlo trying to turn people against her. Now, she does bring up Marlo slashing the woman's face, as does Kenya. Drew is calling Marlo aggressive and in her confessional, and then the production is showing Marlo with her hands behind her back, which that's that BS. That's that passive aggressive. You know what that is. We know what that is. Like, Marlo, you playing around. They're then asking Candy in her confessional if she felt threatened by Marlo, and Candy's basically like, yeah, absolutely not. Like, nope. So Sanya and Courtney, they decide to go outside and check on Candy. Candy ends up leaving, and then Drew explains that the last time she saw Marlo, she was attacking her. She's not wrong. Sanya wasn't even there because Sanya's looking like she has a problem because Sanya got a problem with everything that Drew does. And then we go again with Drew on this. We don't use that word in Chicago. And I mean, if it was crickets and blank stares that people is looking at her, the confessionals is shady as fuck. And I'm like, Drew needs to let this whole narrative go. And then Marlo tells Sheree that she wishes that Drew would have touched her. She would have fallen down on the ground. And I said, see, exactly. That's the bullshit I'm talking about. Sheree is laughing, and outside, Courtney says, you know, they should go back inside. Trick gotta go, Drew says, and then Sanya is like telling her not to call Marlo a trick. So now as Sanya is going back inside, she calls Drew Candy and Kenya's lapdog, and like I said, meanwhile she's heading inside, and I'm like, you the one that's kind of looking like a lapdog at this point, Sanya. And I feel like for me, Sanya went with the group where her star can shine brightest instead of shining all together. But that's just my opinion, and that's me putting it nicely. Drew and Kenya's going over fight moves. I think Monyetta had left at that point, and then eventually they leave too. Courtney goes inside. We get Marlo with these doggone crocodile tears as the ladies, the four of them that are left, decide to tackle these rooms. They don't make it out in time, and we see them splattered with paint, and that is where the episode ends. Child, I would say it again. The episode was perfectly titled because this was absolutely just some old shit. And again, I'm just absolutely through with Marlo's narrative when they have proof. And I'm glad they gave it to us. And I honestly hope that this is the last that we hear of Marlo slashing faces and her doggone nephew, because I need you to find another storyline and go with it. I had in my notes that I didn't know how the rest of the season is going to be if they continue to be divided on this bullshit. And even the next episode, I did watch the next episode, and I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to recap this bullshit. I really don't. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to try to make it short but sweet and see if I could chop it down to the very last pieces, because they know, you know, they give you the drama at the end. But I'm just like, Mission Catch-Up continues. Drop your comments below, or just let me know that you stopped by, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.